almost 2 weeks, one of America's largest cities has had a ransom being held over its head. Ransomware in terms of its computer operations, and they are still not back to normal. On March 22nd, Atlanta was hit by the ransomware attack, with the hackers demanding $51,000. City employees are having to go back to working with pen and paper or sharing aged laptops. 2 weeks on, Atlanta courts still can't access customer information or take payments. Martin Savage is at the CNN Center. It sounds like this is ongoing, and although improvements are being made, it's very slow.
It is indeed, Richard. Good to see you. Yeah, the mayor has equated this to a kind of ongoing hostage situation. City reports that a lot of the departments that had been impacted by this starting on the 22nd of last month have now either found ways to repair, replace, or work around the problem. Essentially, the areas that were impacted were things like online bill payment for many of the citizens. Then on top of that, you had an impact in the municipal court, even the police record system. You had files that the city had were encrypted by the hackers and thereby a denial of access. So the city has been trying to get by and struggling to do so. We should point out that it was clear that the intent of the hackers here did not appear to be to want to crash the city. They weren't trying to bring Atlanta down. The emergency services continued to appear to be unaffected, and also critical systems were apparently unaffected. This was more all about the money. The fact that the city still struggles implies it did not necessarily pay the ransom, and the ransom usually in these cases is a figure that's considered to be manageable while still profitable. In other words, there is a real price point. Richard.
Martin, we'll talk about that with our next guest. Thank you. Martin Savage joining me. Joining me now, Chris Carr is Georgia's Attorney General. Attorney General, thank you for taking the time. First question, straightforward. Did you or did you not? Has the state paid any ransom?
Well, Richard, I know it's been frustrating. It's no more frustrating to anybody than the mayor of Atlanta and the city council and those that have been working on this issue. But I know that they've been working tirelessly around the clock to fix this issue. And what it is it's a complicated issue, and it's very challenging when you have a ransom attack. And the question is, what do you do? Do you pay it? Do you not? If you pay it, you run the risk of it happening again. And if you don't, then you have the complications that obviously the city has engaged in. But what I think is important to your viewers is today it's the city of Atlanta, but tomorrow it could be anybody else.
Right.
If you look at the last week, you've seen pipelines that have been shut down. But you've seen Baltimore's 911 system. That's the challenge that we all face.
Right, and that is certainly a case, and I'm sure there are many in Atlanta who are now thinking about locking the stable door after the horse has long since bolted. Why didn't we back up? Why didn't we do this? Why didn't we do the other? But the reality is, once you are in this situation, do you pay or do you not?
Well, I think that that's a strategic decision that everybody has to face. Again, I think the challenge that comes if you do pay it, you run the risk of it happening again. And this is why you have to have a plan. You've got to have training of employees. You've got to have a good relationship with federal, state, local individuals and the private sector. But at the end of the day, I really do think, again, having a plan in place, being prepared to deal with a cyber attack is critically important.
I have to push you on this because, you know, viewers watching will say, well, hang on, he didn't answer the question. So I'm going to give you three options. On the question of did you pay, or has Atlanta or has Georgia paid, you know, did you pay, did you not, or would you prefer not to answer that question?
The state of Georgia has not paid to my, as I understand, to anything that I have as far as my knowledge. But the question will come, these issues will come up again in the future, whether it's the state of Georgia or whether it's somebody else. And that's going to come up to each individual entity to decide. But this is why it's critically important that we deal with these. This is not the last time this is going to happen to a city, to a house of worship, to a company, to a nonprofit. And being prepared on the front end is critically important. And then so that we know what happened in each particular event. But then what do we do to prevent these in the future?
Well, the British government, of course, you'll be familiar with the National Health Service, just last year had a very, I can't remember the exact name of the ransomware attack, but it was a particularly brutal one that did shut down the emergency services. And WannaCry did, did shut down emergency services. So do you think I guess, finally, we're not treating this seriously enough, are we? We sort of think, A, it won't happen to us. B, if it does happen to us, it won't be that serious. And C, well, we could always pay the ransom even if it did happen to us.
Well, that's the thing I think we got to all pay attention to, how often these attacks, these crimes, and let's also be, be very, very clear, these are crimes that are being committed, how often they are occurring and how disruptive they can be. And again, I think that we all have to come together, whether it's the private sector, whether it's federal, state, and local governments and organizations and entities, to address these issues, being prepared, to plan ahead for what is going to happen. Because, Richard, we're doing more and more online. We are purchasing more online. We are storing more information online in the cloud, whatever it may be. And that's a good thing. But what it also does is it provides a lot of opportunity for those who want to commit crimes.
Attorney General, thank you for joining us. Much appreciated. It's a very important subject and one that, you're quite right, sir, every one of us at some stage is going to fall foul and be on the receiving end of this criminality, as you rightly point out. Thank you.